All right, I guess we can start. So, just real quick, the intro, the presentation, planning on talking about just logging, why your team should be logging simulation, and then the majority of the presentation you should expect to be on actually visualization and like the benefits of why you should be, using a software like AdvantageScope and why visualization can help you and your team with debugging, tuning, at competition. There's a lot of advantage to visualization. Thing about me, just as an introduction, my name is Kishan. I'm a senior at Bronx Science. I've one of the software heads for the cyborgs. I was the operator for our team for 2 years. I'm planning on being the drive coach this coming season. So there's also a bit of strategy talking to this because there's a lot of stuff with the driver actually that you could do with AdvantageScope, like looking back at your games and analyzing it through debugging and also analyzing it through strategy. So for logging, there's a lot of different ways you can log. The most basic way is the built-in WPIlib driver station logging, where it gives you really simple data like your battery voltage. It gives you your current draw. If you're printing something to your console. There's also the smart dashboard with network tables. I'm sure you guys have heard of network tables. It's really simple. You can. If you have a specific variable or thing you want to log or send data to, it's like this. I wouldn't say you should try to memorize. I have some code on the slides. You shouldn't try to memorize how to do this if you're new or if you haven't done it. I have links to the documentation and stuff. So this is just an overview. You can also log your joysticks and you can record stuff like when your robot was on or how long it was on for. It's really simple. The more advanced logging is annotation-based logging with monologue. Monologue is an unofficial logging with WPIlib, and then the new official one that they released last year was Epilogue. So the way they work is it's really simple. Again, basically, there's different ways you can use monologue. It's either, again, with Smart Dashboard, where if you have some specific thing you want to log, you could do it like this up here, or you have a general method logging where you could just, annotate that you want that field, you want the method to be logged. The thing about Epilogue is we used Epilogue last year. It was a bit funky. It was the first year. They are making a lot of changes for 2026, but the way it works is, you could just decide to log your entire class, right? So on top of your class, you could just do @logged, and it'll log all the loggable fields. They also have a thing called not logged. So if you don't want to log something or if you want to opt out of it. There's some things about strategy where opt-in or opt-out, where opt-in is basically you manually decide what gets logged and what doesn't, which is here. And then this is kind of redundant because, you're telling, it already knows that it's not going to be logged and you're still saying not logged. But yeah, this is, I guess, the most common way a lot of teams do logging. There's also render-based logging. So CTRE has signal logging. The one thing about signal logging is they have a Phoenix Pro subscription, which is it's $150. It's really weird. There's a lot of features that are behind the paywall, and personally, I don't think you should be. It's really not worth it. And then Rev, this is so Urkel or URCO is also from 6328, which is the same team that made AdvantageScope. For 2026, there's an unofficial Rev compatible logger where they're planning on basically adapting URCO into the official Rev software. So I'm pretty sure it should be coming with their window drops. If you haven't logged before, and if you do use Rev specifically, I would highly suggest you do so before, you try out at least URCO before build season, before the actual library gets released, because from my experience at least, Rev software isn't, it's not the most reliable. But as you can see here, it's really easy to start up. You just put this in robot init, and it would start logging. For Rev, it will log your Spark Maxes, Spark Flexes, and then CTRE, you get your Pigeon, your Camcoder, your Talons. The last thing about logging is, I know it kind of makes it seems like it's either you do this or this, but you can do both. If I'm using CTRE, I can have signal logger, and I can also be doing monologue or epilogue as logging robot code. The thing about logging is when you initially start out, there's no real way, like it's impossible for you to get a data back after the game. Like if I don't log my velocity here, and then if I want to know my velocity after the game, you can't get that value, right? So ideally you want to log as much as you can. Like even if you think there's a field that like you can't really think of how it would be useful to know the data of, it's generally a good idea to still, log the thing, and if you're not using it, it will still just be there. So also, sorry, if you have any questions, like, you could raise your hand or you could save it for the end, like, it's whatever. For visualization, again, so I'll be talking about AdvantageScope, and we're going to be using, this is our 2024 robot, Taiwanese fried chicken. It's a pretty, I think it's a pretty simple robot, and it's really, great name, I know. It's really, it's a great robot for something like this to explain. It's a single joint on a pivot, and then we have a shooter here. So if I log, this is with monolog, by the way. You do @log.nt, so it sends to network tables, and then I'm simply logging my set point, which is, that's something that I'm gonna have in my code anyways. So just telling the code to, send this data over. If I can use AdvantageScope to plug in my set points and then plug in my actual velocities, it'll give you a really good graph of what's going on. And then the good thing with the graphs is you usually use it for tuning, right? If I'm tuning my PID, you can see the tracking, you could see how well it's following. So here you can see the red and the yellow are the top and the bottom velocities. We have two different motors. So you can see here, it's pretty good tracking. This is within 0.5 seconds. And then if you're like smashing the button, obviously it's not going to be enough time to get to the actual set point. So yeah, really useful. This is, yeah, 1 second before. So this is, here you're logging your module states, your swerve states, and then instead of just looking at these numbers, right, it's so much better to actually look at what's going on. The blue is the set point, and then the red is the actual, is what the motor is actually doing. And if you look at the end, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a point where the tracking is really bad. Yeah, right here. So you see there's only one motor that's actually following, and you can tell something's wrong. Like there's something going on with the drive. And when the driver is actually driving on the field, you have no time to actually figure out what's going on, but being able to see this after the match, it helps so much with your debugging, with figuring out what actually went wrong. And like for this, I'm pretty sure it was just like, it was a really simple issue. It wasn't like a major, yeah, you can see it goes back to following pretty well. This is like the next step of it, where if you log your odometry position, they have a 2D field where it shows you where the robot's going. This is one of our autonomous runs, and here throughout the whole season, basically, we had problems where the robot would like never actually go towards the node the way we want it, right? So being able to actually see what the swerve's doing and how it's following the set points, it lets you retune your auto paths, and it's really great to have. And then I guess the one thing I should also talk about down here, this is the actual AdvantageScope like layout. So you give it your position, and then it basically treats it as a robot. And then a robot has different components. So you would drag in the swerve states from the previous slide onto this robot, and then it would just attach them to your robot, and it does all of it for you, everything for you. This, another thing for the graph you could use is your position for your arm. They're tracking whatever. The one thing I do want to point out is right here. So the yellow is your actual position, and then your blue is your set point. So you can see here, like, it's following the set point properly, but something clearly went wrong here. And this is the, that's when, yeah. We like fully rammed into the stage, I think it was called. And then, so this is another thing they have, Mechanism 2D, where, you know, the red is your actual position and then blue is the set point. You can see the robot thinks like it's being told to go down, but you know it's stuck. And this is something where you can see visually, like it's not really something you need this for, but when you're like writing a code and you don't have the robot, being able to test your code logic, like let's see, for this year, if you know the Stuyvesant robot, they have a robot where the arm can, you know, it's almost a 360 rotation. So you want the arm to go back to its position the fastest way, right? So being able to write code and like just simulating the logic and seeing, oh, it's not going fully around and it's going the way it's supposed to. It's a time saver, really. This is the more complex version of it, where if you have like 2D, 2 joints, 3 joints with pivot visualization. This is Mechanical Advantage 2023 robot. And again, here they use, you know, they're just logging the actual field. The next thing I want to talk about is vision. I feel like vision is becoming such a big thing in FRC, and AdvantageScope, especially for Reefscape, where it was such a precision-based game, it's so important. So this is what the robot was doing, and this is what's actually going on. So I know there's a lot going on here. The green lines are the cameras seeing the actual April tags, and then the flashing green like ghost is what they call it, is where the robot thinks it is. So you're seeing the actual robot position, right, which is the actual CAD model, and then the flashing green ghost is where the robot thinks it is. And then you could see in our previous thing, we're missing all these shots, right? So we make this first shot, but the next two, it's clearly missing these shots. And if you actually look here, you could see that the position of the actual robot, of the estimated position, it's slightly angled. So being able to recognize what's going on with your alignment, what's going on with your shooter, with your robot and positioning, it helps you. Like, this is not something you could fix. Sorry, yeah.
The green is the vision estimated position.
Yeah.
What is determining the yellow official position? Is that like odometry?
It's the actual. Yeah, but so this is the log replay where you're able to, odometry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry, I should talk about log replays too. So, if you log, right, if you do any type of logging, WPLib has a thing called Data Log Manager, where it records all of the stuff being sent to network tables, and then you're able to replay the entire match on AdvantageScope, and you can see everything the robot's doing. You can see the commands that it thinks it should be running at what time. You can see like when the beam break is triggered, right? So like if your robot intakes a note and it just fully goes out, you can check, was it a beam break problem? And so going back to vision, one thing that, right here. So if you have this robot and, if you have this robot in simulation and you want to figure out where to put your cameras, right? Where your transforms for your cameras, you can just import your robot, and you can just drive in simulation, and then you can actually see, at what point on the field the robot is able to see the tags. And yeah, so this is right here again. There's 2 different ways you can really do this. So you could put it as component of the robot, and then this gives you the ghost or the estimated position. For Reefscape, I'll talk more about it because I feel like personally our team struggled with vision weirdly, but we realized at Hudson Valley, so it was like your reef is here and your human player station is here. We realized that it was, if you just put the robot on the field and if you make it look at both the front tags and the back tags, it was thinking it's at 2 different positions at the same time. And then like before you're going into your first match, or before going into even in a practice match, like competitions, they have like a calibration period. So being able to put your robot on the field and then seeing where it thinks it should be or where it is. Like we realized it was that if we blocked the back cameras, if we allowed if we only used the reef cameras for Reefscape, our estimated position was much more accurate because there was a transformation error for us, and I think also the tags weren't very accurate. I think a lot of teams had problems with the human player tags for Hudson Valley. So we were able to basically prevent if we didn't do that and if our driver was trying to align in the middle of the match, I personally think that's a safety hazard. Like something's gonna go wrong. So it's also a safety measure. There's a lot of use to using vision and simulating your vision. This is again just a layout. It's a bit different from I think 2024. It's a new update. They have you have your different parts of your robot and then your actual robot. And then this is the 3D look, I guess. Okay, so this thing here, right? It just it doesn't magically appear. The way you get your robot onto AdvantageScope, it's a tad bit annoying process. So it looks like a lot here, but basically what you have to do is you need your CAD, you need your robot CAD to be done. But when you have your robot CAD, you basically also ideally as a software person, it's probably better if you get a Mechu friend with you when you're doing this. But you get your robot CAD and you want to separate the actual base of the robot from different mechanisms that you want to use. So model here, it's just the CAD without any moving components, right? It's just the base of the robot. And then each individual model after that would be if I have an arm, right, that would be this. If I have an elevator, it would be another model. And then the way you set it up is one simple file, a JSON file. This is the position and the rotation of the robot. This is usually really simple. You just have it at 0, 0, 0, and then your starting position. You could name it whatever you want, and then it requires a CAD link to your on-chip project or whatever. This is the biggest part though. Here you have to figure out manually where to position your arm relative to your robot on AdvantageScope. So you can see here, these values are really random, and basically you just have to play around with them and then try to make it look as accurate and realistic as you can. The software side of this is, it's pretty simple. You just, if I have a pivot, you make a transform 3D with, this is the offset from the center of the chassis to where your robot should be rotating about, the point where it should be rotating about. And this is just the actual position or the rotation of the arm. Again, they have documentation on this, but this is basically the process that you would do. I would say though, I highly recommend you guys do this, as soon as you get a CAD, because it just being able to see your robot do stuff, instead of, they have different models. They have a crab, stuff like that, but it's, oh, another thing. So tunables. This is probably my favorite thing about AdvantageScope. If you guys are tuning PID, right? Instead of having to change your value, redeploy your code, and then test it, you can. This is like a tunable basically, where you write code to tell it I'm gonna be changing my data through network tables, and then the data you get, you change your actual P value, I value, whatever. And then in AdvantageScope, they have a config button here where, so we had a thing called Siggy's constant. This was for our shooter. So instead of having to go back to my code, change my code, redeploy, I can just go here, change the value, click out of it, and then the robot would automatically have that new value, and you can just keep testing. Yeah.
Is there permanent storage for that?
Yeah, so it doesn't it's not gonna update your code for you. So you kind of have to remember them and then put them into your code. But it's a big time saver where you can also do this during a match, which is I think super helpful. If you're at a practice match and you're trying to figure out again your shooter constant if you have one, or your if you have a constant for your alignment, being able to just in a practice match, which is, it's not a serious game, you can spend the entire match just changing the value and like being on the field and playing around with it. If you press enter, it will disable your robot, which is, half a second lost, but still, just click out of it. It's not shown here, but this is the way to get it to show up. You also have to write code to update your actual constant, right? Which is just, it's really simple. More of the strategy stuff. This is a new feature they added this year, where it's like a heat map. You can upload your logs, and then they have a feature where it will show you, it basically makes a heat map of your position. I think this is really cool. So this is the first competition, and that's the second competition. You can clearly see how the strategy is developing throughout competition, right? Like by the way, these are 5 different matches. So they have a thing where you can upload multiple logs at the same time. So these are 5 different matches. Like each robot is a different match at the same time. So you can see here, like the robots all over the place. Like there's not really a coherent strategy. Whereas here, this is the crescendo meta, where it's like go to your human player, feed the note, go to your human player, feed the note. So you can see, like, it's really nice to be able to look back at the logs, like after the first day of competition with your driver or with your drive team, and like talking about cycling, talking about positioning. Because I wasn't a driver, but I feel like, especially for new drivers, it's really hard for them to, if you just like doing a strategy talk, like you're with your alliance partner and they tell you, okay, you're gonna run this route, but being actually able to run that route is much harder. So like you can talk with your driver, you can review logs, and it basically helps them like figure out how they're doing as a driver themselves. This is really cool. A lot of people don't know about this, but this is AdvantageScope XR, or extended reality, where like if I take my phone, I can lay out a Reefscape field here, and then I can watch the game being played through my phone. And it sounds like something that doesn't have a big advantage to it, but like on the day of kickoff, or the second day of kickoff, like being able to just go into an empty room and lay out the field and walk around and see how things are positioned, like relative to other things, it's really nice. If your team, like if you have a robot area where like or a field setup, you can use this to actually speed up your like taping of the field, because everything is positioned relatively. So if you like, let's say my school gives me a cafeteria for half the field, I can lay out that field, and instead of having to measure out where everything is, I can just look at it and then tape it on the floor, which is like, it's so useful. We haven't actually done this because like I didn't think about this. I thought about it like last night when I was making this, but hopefully we can do this this kickoff. So again, competitive edge. This is also like before you get the robot, like being able to test your logic, being able to see if your code actually makes sense and see it work. It's really nice. This is, it's kind of a lot. It's never too late. But the thing I'm trying to say is, like, if your team is not already doing this, like, level of logging, it's gonna be much harder to keep up. And there's a lot of new stuff being made. I don't know if you guys know, but there's a thing called MapleSim, where it's like, it's a physics simulation. So there's like collisions, robot collisions, game piece collisions. There's a lot of people are working on basically improving this and trying to use and get as much out of AdvantageScope. So just being able to like log your position, or log your position, being able to see your position, it can help you so much. And it's also just a good habit to be in as a software department as a whole, I guess. This is like a run of our auto path. The thing you see here is like, the notes are actually being shot with trajectory. They also have a thing called game piece visualization, where you can simulate the game piece as well, which is really cool. I think they have it for all years. Like they have it for 2022, 2023. The cool thing about this, in my opinion, is I kind of mentioned it before, but if I'm making auto pass like the first week of kickoff, or like before I even have the robot, I can see like the one concern that I had was if my robot is going to be going all the way down the field here, it's clearly not going to be able to see those tags, and I don't know where to position my cameras that it would also be able to see those tags. So being able to play on with your transformations of your cameras, positioning of your cameras, your rotation of your cameras, you can just see how things will play out more realistically when you actually do get the robot, and when you're actually able to test this stuff. And yeah, this is, you can take a photo of this. This is the documentations for all the stuff mentioned. This also, for AdvantageScope itself, they don't have like big updates coming for 2026, because they're trying to work on, they're working on basically implementing System Core, which I know there's a presentation on. So if you guys are like rookies, or if you're like a sophomore, if you still have one more year after this year, you should look into System Core. System Core is going to be the new way basically that software is going to work. So that's the thing they're focusing on. So there's not going to be much updates to like the UI or like new features. Yeah.
Sorry, you said System Core? System Core?
Yeah.
And that is the new replacement for what?
System Core is like, it's not really related to this, it's just like as an FRC as a whole, they're basically trying to, sorry? Yeah, it's replacing the Rio, and it's like, it also has an integrated Limelight, I think.
It's hardware.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
this isn't a software.
No. There's still like it's gonna change WPI lib and the software. There's like, yeah, it's a pretty big change. Yeah. There's new ways you have to write commands and stuff. Like they haven't really released much on the software side, but there's I know 694, they have like a beta tester. You can ask him. I'm assuming he has.
It's by Limelight. It doesn't have Limelight built in.
Okay. Yeah.
You can learn more all about it at our presentation later in the day. You didn't have to. Yeah, right after lunch. So the robotics lab.
But yeah. That's it. Thank you. If you guys have questions, you can. I'll be sticking around. Yeah.
For a team who doesn't do any sort of advanced logging at all, where should they get started? What's the easiest or first thing that they can do? Like right now, let's say a team does a bunch of like smart dashboard spam, but then that's about it.
Yeah, I think if you're starting out, I would probably say, one of these. Like, you can also just do it. This is probably the easiest way you can get started, right? Based on whichever one you use. It gives you your stuff on your motors. And then if you want to do more customized, more specific one, again, this is really like up to preference. Like, they both do the same thing. There's also a thing called Doglog from Team 581, Blazing Bulldogs, the California team. They're a really good team. But there's a lot of different like logging systems, so it's really preference. But this is like 2 lines of code that you can get started with, and then you can I'd probably say monologue, where it gives you like a quick start with. Like, you don't need to start logging your entire robot code if you're starting out. Like some specific important things like your drive states, your position states for your arm, or stuff like that, and your set points. Yeah.
What is the logging frequency on some of those log annotations?
Sorry?
The log frequency. Like when you annotate a function as log, like, let's say, how,
Here.
or up above.
Yeah.
How was the logging frequency on that?
The actual, I don't know that. I don't know the exact number for that.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'd assume,
I'll use your main robot loop.
yeah, it's probably with the how your robot's being updated. So 0.02 seconds, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the same with all the other logging. So, and it also sends data to your network table. So I'm assuming it's just with the robot loop time. Yeah.
For AdvantageScope, when you animate something like an elevator, does every stage have to be individual? Because you said you have to have mechanisms separately.
No. So if you have, So if you have an elevator, it would just be one model, like one. You would just you would take out the elevator CAD itself, and then you would just control it. You would position it into your robot, and then since it's acting as a I guess one motor or two motors, through software, you would just update it as you would anyways.
What software do you guys use for logging and visualizing?
Like which logging method?
No, so for instance, the slide where you guys can see the field and more I don't know, it's the 10th slide. What software do you guys use for that? Because when we do logging for cycles, we usually have the 2D kind of field, and we don't really see it stuff as accurately like that. So what software are you guys using to get those readings?
I mean, I'm sure you guys do logging the same as we do, because this is what's doing this, right? So I'm just logging my my position. It could be how you're setting it up in AdvantageScope. It's just the position and then putting in the set points and the position of your module states. Are you talking more about are you talking about the 2D field or the 3D field? Because this is the 2D view with the position on your.
No, right, because I don't know, when we're logging, we don't really see the vectors where it's I'm asking what app you guys are using, because I'm not really familiar with putting all the logging into this poses section. So I was wondering what software you guys use for that.
Yeah, it's not like an extra thing. I'm sure you guys log your source states. It's probably how you set it up in AdvantageScope. There's no thing telling. Where is it? There's no thing telling AdvantageScope to make it a vector or display as it is. It's just it does it for you. Yeah. So I don't know.
Wait, what's that called?
AdvantageScope. Yeah.
Oh, AdvantageScope. Okay.
Yeah. I know you guys use AdvantageScope. Yeah.
Do you ever do a tutorial or where to get started with MapleSim, game piece visualization and simulation?
For game piece specifically, so you don't need to use MapleSim for game piece simulation. This is just this is something you could. It's one file that you can do that does you're basically what's going on here is you're telling you give it a list of all the position of the nodes, because there's no way to go to your human player station and get more nodes. So it's just it's fixed on the field, but you're giving it. You're telling it when the robot is shooting, just update the trajectory, so you can see. How I can show you how that's done, but for MapleSim, they have they have documentation and stuff. I haven't really worked with MapleSim personally, so I'm not gonna I can't really tell you much, but right here. So this basically what's going on here is these are the preset positions of the nodes that are on the field, and then there's. If you go to, so you have an intake command where it gets your drive position, and then based on your node position, if it's within a certain distance, you carry a node, and then the actual generate path logic it's basically this. Like it's like it's different from Reefscape, because for Reefscape, like there was no shooting, so you're not really doing like velocity stuff. It's more of if my robot is here and if my elevator is at this height, then put a coral at this level of the reef. So it's really different every year, based on how the game piece works. But for Maple Sim, it's actually really cool. They have I would say, like, don't try to go immediately to this, right? Like, so yeah, this is like what it looks like. There's like, you can interact with the field, you can interact with the game pieces. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention, joysticks. So for your driver, like if if something goes wrong during a game and if your driver or the drive coach, you don't know if it was a human input error or if it was like a robot issue, AdvantageScope also lets you log your joystick, so you can replay the match with the joystick and you can see what's going on with that. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, I'll probably just go through the documentation. You guys can you can leave early, it's fine. There's like 5 minutes left, I think. 25 minutes left, my bad. My bad. Let's see, what else can we talk about?
And then for logging, you guys use just WPI's logging system, or are you guys using any actual like Phoenixes or?
Yeah, so we use CTRE, so we have a signal logger that we use, and then we use it with Epilogue for like a more customized, specific logging. We don't have the Phoenix Pro subscription or whatever. Like that's it's really more than enough. So I don't actually really know why. I don't see why most teams should be actually getting the Phoenix Pro subscription.
For the WPI logger, is it like built into the?
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about? Yeah.
It doesn't involve like a full log replay. Like, do you guys replay the logs and stuff like that?
Yeah, it generates. This is the data log manager that basically it keeps track of all the traffic going through network tables, and then it generates a log file, which then you could do stuff like this, where you could open 1 or 5 of your games, and then you can see stuff going on with the robot.
Have you guys tried to integrate AdvantageKit or like?
Oh yeah, that's the. So AdvantageKit is basically I guess the next step to this with log replaying. I haven't looked much. Have you guys done AdvantageKit stuff?
Yeah, we did it last year, but it wasn't a full integration. We just we did we did do Maple Sim, and we've been great actually. Helped a lot with fixing issues.
Yeah.
Although we probably do on the back end use the CTREs, but it's mainly AdvantageKit we use
for logging, like log replaying?
Like log replaying.
Yeah.
Do you guys often use it during the competitions?
This?
For debugging the log?
Basically, ideally, you want to get into a habit of as soon as you come out of a game, you plug in your USB drive, you get your log file, and you just plug it into your driver station, and just regardless of if it was a perfect match, you look through, you see what happened, in auto, it's a really good habit to be in. It's also if you're testing, even if you're at home, if you're testing, you should really have AdvantageScope open and just seeing through stuff through there. It's really helpful. visual. Oh, one other thing. So, as a, I'm assuming most of you guys here are software. Being able to show this or something like this to the mechie department or like people working on the actual robot, it helps them also understand what's going on with the robot. Where if things are confusing, if you're in the pit and like no one knows what's going on or like what happened with the robot, like having something visual is not just helpful to software, but like really the whole team. Less for the actual construction side of it, but for pit crew at least, it's really nice showing them concrete stuff on what's going on. And then they also have there's a lot of little stuff I didn't mention. So they have you could record all primitive types, your data types, booleans. So I would say, weirdly enough, beam breaks and beam break booleans are one of the biggest things we use AdvantageScope for. If something's wrong with the beam break, just your robot being disabled, sticking your arm through and then just seeing the light go red and green. It lets you test your logic without really having to run your robot. It lets you test your logic in sim without having the robot itself. So it's really efficiency really.
Do you integrate the simulation early on in the season? Let's say after the second the CAD is done, you guys integrate it, or how does it work?
Our team is at a point where we write code while we sim stuff as we're writing code. So we don't really it's really just kind of second nature, to be honest, because VC logging is really important. So there's a lot of stuff you can't do until you get to CAD, which is stuff like this. But you can write code for your pivot, and then you can write commands with your pivot, and you can see, oh, is my set point following, or is my arm rotating the way I want it to rotate. So we do a lot of, it's really when you start writing out the full subsystems, it's with it. Yeah.
What's the advantage of using something like AdvantageScope to tune mechanisms versus using something like Phoenix Tuner X?
We also use Phoenix Tuner so Phoenix Tuner is really the first time you're tuning, right? Because it's you're going off nothing. But when you're doing when you've done stuff with the robot and there's a small change you want to make, or if it's something on the fly, really, that's what we mainly use tunables for. There's also Phoenix Tuner is for your motors, right? But there's other stuff that you're going to want to tune, or you might have stuff to tune, which you can't really do that with Phoenix Tuner. There's also just going back to logging, AdvantageScope isn't really, it's the main visualization tool, but do you guys know what Elastic is? Or a dashboard, right? So if you're logging this stuff, you can also see this stuff on Elastic, and Elastic is mainly used for by Drive Team during the competition, and you can, if I'm logging my position, right? If I'm logging this, I can have this on Elastic while I'm playing the game. So and then you could also be logging your game time, your robot time. You could see, as a drive coach or just behind the glass, I can just look down, see how much time is left on the, during the match. So Elastic is also really, I guess, second to AdvantageScope for visualization and stuff you do with the logged fields.
And when your drivers drive, do they have the Elastic opened up, or do they have AdvantageScope?
No, we usually have Elastic, because our team has, we also have a thing we use called fault logger, where it shows you if my robot is driving and it collides into something, and let's say my motor disables or something, you're not really good. You're so far from the robot to actually tell what's going on. You can see like, oh, my drive is disabled, or like, oh, this motor is not going to work. So you can instantly go into like defense, like go into defense. So elastic is really I feel like most teams use have elastic on. Yeah. There's also, I guess, just talking more about stuff you can log, auto chooser. So auto chooser is like, you have multiple autos, and on elastic you can with I guess smart dashboard you can send and then you have an auto chooser where instead of having to like, I don't really know how most teams use it because I've been exposed to this ever since I was like on Drive Team, but you open up Elastic and then it has a list of all the autos, and then you could just pick which auto you want to do on the fly, and then the robot would do that auto when it gets enabled. One thing with signal logging is it automatically does this. So technically you don't need to do this, but it does it when a match starts. But there's a lot of teams that have had problems with it, and it's not very consistent, I guess. So it's just a good idea to write these 2 lines of code, and also it makes it more consistent with at home and at competition. But CTRE, like, they have a thing that it does it at match start.